Well, Deb Murphy filed this report for Sierra Wave Media. Guilty on 91 counts. Judge Philip Argento's ruling on the Dondi Rossi embezzlement trial wasn't that dramatic on Monday afternoon at the Independence Courthouse, but that was the gist. Dondi Rossi will self-surrender to the Independence Jail August 29th by 2 p.m. Her next appearance in court will be October 20th, when Argento will deliver the sentence after considering the probation report. I have adopted the plaintiff's argument, Judge Argento said during his ruling that Rossi was guilty on every count. Rossi was initially charged with 135 counts, with a primary charge of embezzling $1.5 million of public assistance funds while employed as a supervisor with the Inyo County Health and Human Services Department. Now, over the course of the trial, charges of identity theft of those persons who did not testify in court were dropped, as were charges of conspiracy to commit forgery. Now, during the brief court session on Monday, Judge Argento alluded to, quote, the anticipated length of the sentence, end quote. Now, on February 4th of this year, the first day of testimony in the case, Dondi Rossi rejected a plea deal that would have sent her to prison for 8 years. At that time, Judge Argento encouraged her to take the plea, saying if the prosecution proved all 135 counts, the mandatory sentence could be as much as 31 years. Now, Dondi Rossi's defense attorney, David Evans, asked that Rossi self-surrender in 2 weeks rather than being remanded to custody on Monday. He cited the recent death of Rossi's mother and her return to Bishop, and Judge Argento granted that request. And again, Dondi Rossi guilty on 91 counts. Now, in a case going back nearly 6 years, a Mammoth Lakes doctor pleaded guilty to federal charges earlier this week. Jonathan Cornelius Bourne, age 59, of Mammoth Lakes, pleaded guilty Monday to unauthorized transportation of archaeological resources and unauthorized excavation, removal, damage, or defacement of archaeological resources. This according to acting U.S. Attorney Philip A. Talbert. Now, on September 17, 2015, a federal grand jury returned an indictment against Jonathan Bourne, charging him with violations of the Archaeological Resources Protection Act. Bourne had been collecting artifacts and archaeological resources since 1994. He documented each item according to a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office through the United States Forest Service, and Bourne has voluntarily turned over to the government an estimated 20,000 archaeological items that he had collected from public lands. Dr. Bourne has agreed to pay almost $250,000, $249,372 to be exact, in restitution to the United States of America. Now, according to the plea agreement, on October 14, 2010, Bourne altered a small prehistoric site, cremation site, and burial cairns in the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest in Nevada. He removed glass trade beads and transported them to his home in Mammoth Lakes. On January 10, 2011, the press release states that Bourne altered a large prehistoric site in Death Valley National Park and removed a tool made from a bighorn sheep horn and 3-inch stone tablets, which were found in Bourne's home. Now, this case is a product of an investigation by the United States Forest Service, the National Park Service, and the Bureau of Land Management. Assistant United States Attorney Laurel J. Montoya is prosecuting the case. Bourne is scheduled to be sentenced on November 7th, 2016 by U.S. District Court Judge Lawrence J. O'Neill. Bourne faces a maximum statutory penalty of 2 years in prison and a $20,000 fine for each count. The actual sentence, however, will be determined at the discretion of the court after consideration of any applicable statutory factors and the federal sentencing guidelines, which take into account a number of variables. Well, State Senator Tom Berryhill announced Tuesday that Senate Bill 1345, that's the measure to extend the sunset date of Inyo County's off-highway vehicle adventures Trails pilot program that has cleared the legislature and is headed for the governor for approval. Extending this pilot program for 3 more years was the right thing to do, Berryhill said. Linking up segments of existing OHV trails so that folks have easy access to the trails makes sense in rural communities and will prevent people from illegally driving on non-trails or private property. I am glad to see my colleagues agreed. Now, SB 1345 will extend a pilot program enacted by Assembly Bill 628. AB 628 established a 5-year pilot program that allowed Inyo County to designate specific county streets and roads as combined use routes for off-highway vehicle uses. Now, these combined use highways are used to link existing OHV trails and trailheads, or allow drivers to use these trails for easier access to in-town goods and services. Now, the original pilot program was caught up in an extensive environmental review and public input process. As a result, only about 6 months of data was collected on the 3 combined use routes authorized under the program. SB 1345 extends the original program for an additional 3 years. We'll be back with more news.